Hey, how's it going everyone? Thank you for being here. So today is going to be something a little bit different than what I usually do. I get asked a lot of questions on my knife making process, how I do certain things. So I figured why not build a knife, make some shorter videos, and share some tips and some things that have helped me get to where I am that'll hopefully help you guys and answer some of your questions. So obviously this series is going to be geared more towards the maker, but also for anyone that's interested in knife making, interested in seeing what goes into my process, or interested in crafts in general. So anyways, this first video is going to be knife design, and specifically chef's knives. Now a lot of it is going to be based on personal preference and what I've found over the years that I like and that works for me. This is not the, definite way to design a chef's knife. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's just what I like, what I've found through years of designing and making knives. So if you like what you see, that's great. If not, that's also fine. Like I said, this is going to be based a lot on personal preference. So find out what you like, work on that. Hopefully some of the things I have to say helps you get there. I think that's it, so let's get into it. Alright, so to start, I think the first thing to do is to decide how long of a blade you want. That's usually where I'll start. Today I think I want 9 inches. So I'm just gonna mark out. And what I'm actually gonna do is extend this line even all the way back to where the handle is, because this one gives me my measurement so I know how long the blade is. But 2, it's going to act as a cutting board surface. So I know where that edge is and how much clearance I need for my handle based on where the cutting board is going to be. So that's why I'll put that line as far out as I can get it. Since, like I said, this is my cutting board, I like to have my edge straight. It'll probably be straight from around here to here. And then the tip probably swoop up to about there. Now, one thing I like to do is probably I would say from the heel to maybe halfway up, because this is a longer blade. I want this area here to be straight and flat. I like the action of when I'm cutting on a cutting board, when I bring that edge down, it gives me that nice hard termination on a cutting board, which is something that I like from my knives. If you are someone that likes a rock chop, then bring that up a little bit at the back. But I like the hard stop at the end. So that's gonna give me that hard chopping action on a cutting board that I'm looking for. So real quick, a good tip is buy yourself some of these. These are called French curves, I believe. You can get them on Amazon. They come in packs of like 4 or 5, but you can see it's great for this sort of thing, because then I can just line that up, and that gives me that nice, clean, sweeping edge. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. So when it comes to the tip here, I don't want it to be too high up in the air. I don't want it to come up like way up here, because if that comes up too high, then that means to actually be able to use the tip of that knife, I'm like, you know, twisting my wrist and bringing that way up in the air just to get access to the tip here. So I don't want it to go too high up. Generally, I would say in between maybe like 2 1/4 to 3 inches. So a good way to look at that is I'll just take my ruler, pretend this is a cutting board, and raise that up. And once I hit that tip, and now I measure where the heel is going to be, and that is 3 inches. I think I'm actually gonna bring that down a tiny bit. All right, I think that's good. Now I want a decent sized belly here. One, it gives me, I mean, I have bigger hands, but it gives me something to hold on to in the pinch grip. But also it's gonna leave more room for my handle back here so that I've got more clearance with my knuckles. If the belly isn't as big, like say if it was like 1.5 inches, so that would be right there. When I'm holding my handle, my knuckles are gonna hit that cutting board. So I'm gonna raise it probably about 2 1/4 inches. So it'll come up there. And then again, with my, whatever you want to call this, French curve or whatever, I'm just going to start to swoop these lines in. Now, I mean, you could just go and, you know, straight line that. But for me, for the look of my knives, essentially what I'm looking for is a big, I like big curves. So the idea is that my knives will start low in the back, come up, and then obviously end low near the tip. And then near the back of the handle, I like to kick it out and swoop it up sometimes. That gives it a bit more flair or style or whatever you want to call it. Again, that's more of a personal preference. All right, now for the choil here, sometimes I like to go, you know, a bit aggressive and bring it in like that and swoop it back out. But I think for this one, I'm going more for a classic Western Euro style knife, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not going to go anything too fancy. I'll just roll the choil out like that. I think that looks good. This part here is mostly for preference. You know, I've heard of people bringing this in and making a nice finger pocket so your finger can lock in and that sort of thing. But I mean, I don't find it super necessary. And that there is essentially my blade profile. So I like the straight, probably 1/3 to 1/2 back of the knife here. And then I don't want to bring the tip up too far because I want to be able to use that quite easily without lifting my hand way too high in the air. A decent sized belly here for the pinch grip and also for clearance on your handle. So that's the front end of that blade. All right, now for the back end of this handle. Unless you're making it for someone that says my hands are really big, my hands are really small, then the overall size, I would say full length, I like to go with probably anywhere from 5 to 5.5 inches on the outside, so on the top, because the inside generally is going to come in closer because I cut my handles back. So the inside is usually around 4 to 4.5. 4.5 would be the maximum for me. I feel like that's almost even too big. So I'm gonna go 4 inches on the inside of the handle here. and then roughly 5 on the top. So the handle is where you can kind of get, you know, creative and a bit crazy. Yes, you want it to look good, but also it's gotta feel good in the hand. You gotta be able to to hold it in a few different grips, because, you know, not everyone holds the knife the same way. Since I'm designing just like quite a simple, typical European style, Western style, that's kind of what I like to do. And like I said, I'm gonna bring this, I screwed that up. I'm gonna continue this line. It'll sort of come up about halfway down the handle, and then I'm gonna cut it back down. And that's generally what I like to do. That gives me that swooping sort of curve. But then what I like to do, just to give it a little bit more, is I'll kick it back up here, out on the end. Just slightly, like that. So I almost have this S shape. Now as for the inside of the handle here, the first sort of area is gonna cover maybe 2 to 3 fingers, which is, I mean, no one's gripping it like that, but. And then give it some curve on the back here. I think that's looking pretty all right. And then back here I can either go straight and then kick it in, or just completely kick it in. For me, it looks kind of off when the whole thing is, especially the bottom here, is rounded. I like to put a point there. And also, I mean, you're not gonna be swinging this thing around, but that's what locks your hand in, right? Is the end of that handle and the front of that handle. If that's rounded, I mean, obviously this is not like a fighting knife, this is just a kitchen knife, so that's just my thought process anyways. And that, I think, is it. I think that's the back of that handle there. This front end, like I said, I like that to be straight, so I'm just gonna punch in a straight line. So I'm a little under 4 inches here, which is totally fine. So that's my general idea for the handle. Like I said, the front will follow the curve that I created at the front of the, or sorry, at the end of the blade here. And then the back, either I'll bring it all the way down so that I get this entire curve of the blade, or I like to kick it back up a little bit, and that gives it a little bit more flair. And that's purely what that is. That's just aesthetic. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. This is essentially what I'm looking for. A nice sort of classic looking Euro Western knife. Again, a few things functionality wise to look for is you don't bring the tip too high up. The back here, I like it to be flat for hard action on the cutting board. The handle is high enough from the cutting board that my knuckles, I got some good clearance there. And somewhat of a deep belly for pinch grip. So anyways guys, that is pretty much all I have for design. Like I said, a lot of it is personal preference. It comes with time, comes with designing and, you know, making a bunch of different knives, and eventually you'll arrive at a place where you've developed your own style. Hopefully some of this information here helps you with your design process. It's also totally fine to be taking inspiration from other makers. Just remember to give credit where credit is due, but I'll always encourage that you try and explore your own ideas. Anyways, that's all I've got. Hopefully this has helped. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. If not, I will see you in the next one. Peace.